Naming rights are formed when a corporation or entity purchases the right to name a facility or event for a defined period of time. Naming rights have been around since the early 1970s, and in 1973, the Buffalo Bills made the first major sports naming deal at $37.5 million with Rich Foods. But prior to this deal, stadiums were generally named after the teams that occupied them, individuals, or a geographical location. So, for example, in 1926, William Wrigley named the Chicago Cubs Stadium Wrigley Field. But today, most stadiums are named after corporate companies from various industries, from banks to car brands to office supply chains and energy companies. Overall, naming rights are beneficial for facilities because they establish brand awareness, increase brand exposure, and financially boost the organization that corporations partner with. So brand awareness is a great way for corporate sponsors to maintain their relevance within the sports market. Through things such as logo placement on tickets and signage, brands are connecting and engaging with their consumers, which can overall enhance the consumer's experience. And this can foster emotional connections, which can translate into consumer loyalty, which can then translate further into brand preference. A survey found that 1/3 of all sports fans considered purchasing from a brand thanks to a naming rights deal. Additionally, the longer the naming rights deal, the more likely fans are to recall a sponsor. So, for example, if someone were to ask me about pro sports facilities in the Twin Cities, a handful of names would come to mind, like U.S. Bank, Stadium, Target Field, Xcel Energy Center, etc. But a survey found that 1 in 5 consumers were able to identify AT&T as a sponsor of AT&T Park. Likewise, that same survey found that 94% of Seattle residents knew the sponsor of CenturyLink Field. These prove that naming rights can be powerful when establishing brand awareness. Also, naming rights increase brand exposure through off-site promotions. So stadiums are mentioned a lot through various media sources, and because of this, numerous demographics are reached through media impressions, which is then valuable for sponsors. Additionally, logos are placed throughout the venue, and it can be seen as free advertising. So they're normally placed in locations that are visible to the consumer, which is an effective brand exposure strategy. Likewise, digital signage is normally large, bright, and the naming rights sponsor is the most displayed out of all of the sponsors, which then establishes dominance. So a study found that it takes 5 to 7 impressions for people to remember a brand. So the more consumers are exposed to a brand, the more likely they are to form that emotional and deeper connection with the brand. These are all effective marketing strategies that come with naming rights. Naming rights also financially boost the organizations that corporations sponsor. So according to the textbook, naming rights are the largest single sponsorship revenue source for a sports facility. And through the purchase of naming rights, corporate sponsors gain direct access to consumers of sport, which then makes it easier for them to connect and engage with those consumers. Organizations can then take the revenue generated from the naming rights contract and invest it back into their teams through things like facility upgrades, new equipment, and it can contribute to the incomes of players and coaches. So naming rights deals generate like $10 million or more per year. So that proves that the investment that corporate sponsors are making generates a successful ROI through their contract deals. In conclusion, naming rights create many opportunities for both the corporate sponsor and the organization with which the sponsor is partnering with. Naming rights provide the sponsor with an outlet to create a sense of brand awareness throughout the community, and having that convenience to build relationships with consumers is an effective marketing strategy. Furthermore, the increase in brand exposure that comes with naming rights gives the corporate sponsor the opportunity to reach new demographics beyond just the local consumers. Likewise, naming rights are beneficial in bolstering an organization's revenue. So with all these benefits combined, it is clear to see why corporations would capitalize on the opportunity to finance a sports venue. Thank you.